Elspeth Hussey here with 7 Adelaide's afternoon news. Making news this hour, a dramatic 6-hour rooftop siege. Our cameras there as police swoop on a carjacking suspect. Also tragedy on the Flurio, an elderly man pulled from the water at Treloar. 21 days on the bench, the sweeping new concussion rules for South Australian kids playing sport. Homeowners hold their breath as pressure mounts on the Reserve Bank to slash interest rates. And Mitch Marsh's emotional triumph as he claims cricket's top honour.
Live from Adelaide, 7 News starts now.
Good afternoon. We begin with the dramatic rooftop arrest of a carjacking suspect at Paralawi. The balaclava-clad man sparked a 6-hour standoff with police after allegedly holding a knife to a rideshare driver's throat. Peter Caldecott reports.
There was a tense standoff here in the Paralawi back streets as the man, who was surrounded by police, refused to come down. He was perched on top of a greenhouse after being cornered near the intersection of Matala and Tintara roads. Police negotiators tried desperately to talk him down, but he refused to budge.
We didn't want the person in question harmed to fall, and we certainly didn't want any of our police officers hurt in any arrest situation.
Heavily armed Star Group officers were called in, but still the man refused to give himself up.
I saw the fella on the roof. I did actually say, "What are you doing?"
It's just very scary. Woke up, lots of noise, lots of cops, obviously. Someone was in my backyard and on my roof.
Police say the man was wanted over a carjacking around 2:30 a.m. The victim, a rideshare driver, was called to a Parafield Gardens address when two men got in and threatened him with a knife before stealing his car, cash and mobile phone.
They take knife at my neck and just say me give your wallet and phone. So this is very dangerous, and then say me like get out from the car and go.
The police helicopter spotted the stolen Camry at Edinburgh and followed it to Burton Road where it was dumped. The pair ran off, and police say around 4 a.m. one of them climbed onto a roof at Paralawi. Just after 10 a.m. he finally gave himself up. The 22-year-old Hectorville man was still wearing his balaclava as he was marched from the scene. Police are still hunting the second suspect. Police say the man will be facing multiple charges.
An elderly man has died in a suspected drowning at Treloar North. The 86-year-old's body was pulled from the water near the Riverside Cove Marina around 9 this morning, but he couldn't be revived. Police say there are no suspicious circumstances. Junior footballers who suffer a nasty head knock on the field will be benched for at least 21 days under new guidelines. As Jazz Turlings reports, experts also want a concussion officer on standby at every game.
Well, if in doubt, sit them out. That's the new advice from the nation's peak sporting body today in what's really a significant overhaul of how we treat concussion at community level sport here in SA. The biggest change: if a player suffers a head knock, they will automatically be benched from the game for a minimum of 3 weeks. And they'll have to be symptom-free as well for at least 14 days before they even consider returning to training. The guidelines also advise that a player returns to school or work first before getting back on the field.
The day after someone's symptoms clear, they still have a brain injury. They're not ready to go back to sport, and what they need is this buffer period.
Now, these guidelines follow a landmark Senate report last year and have the backing of the Federal Health Minister.
Having concussion officers at those sporting clubs that make sure that the kid or the adult playing community sport is followed up with their doctor, and as well as the 21-day timeout period, I think is a really welcome advance. I think parents particularly will be very grateful for it.
The players' well-being is high priority, and whatever the recommendations are put out, we will follow the best practice of those recommendations.
But these guidelines are just that. It'll be up to local SA sporting bodies to accept and implement them.
An elderly driver has died after his car slammed into a pole at Walkley Heights. The 70-year-old Ingle Farm man lost control of his Mitsubishi Hatch around 9:30 last night. Wright Road was closed for several hours as major crash officers investigated. 4 lives have been lost on SA roads this year compared to 11 this time last year. Explosive new details have emerged about the stabbing of an Adelaide Muslim woman by her own family over a case of forbidden love. The 21-year-old was knifed in the stomach by her father at Sefton Plaza in 2021, forced into a car and driven to the family home where she was left bleeding in the shower. The courts heard the devout Muslims objected to the victim's relationship with a Christian man. Her father's told the court he's sorry and never intended to hurt his daughter. A heritage-listed church in North Adelaide has been saved after a suspicious fire broke out inside. 2 suspects were caught on camera moments before the blaze broke out, forcing the evacuation of a packed hotel. Lauren Rose reports.
The fire broke out inside this old Methodist church on Tin Street just before 9:30. Radio station workers across the road were the first to spot the smoke. As it grew thicker, they leapt into action.
Oh my God, that's getting bad.
Calling 000 before running into the Majestic Hotel to alert reception. Staff there were quick to evacuate the building.
Well, I guess I'm assuming this is a joke. What's going on? No, sir, get out, evacuate. There's a fire. I said, you're kidding. No, get out.
It didn't take firefighters long to extinguish the blaze. It was furniture being stored in the church on fire, not the structure itself.
It's a solid stone, brick building, so that hasn't caused any damage.
Police have seized security video that shows 2 people entering, then leaving the building around the time of the fire. They want anyone who saw suspicious activity in the area to contact them. The church and the former Channel 9 TV studio next door haven't been used for years, but were sold in September. The site was going to be turned into apartments, but its new owners now plan for it to be a commercial development.
And firefighters were kept busy with multiple blazes overnight, including this one at a home in Parafield Gardens. Thankfully, everyone inside managed to escape before the roof collapsed. It's believed the blaze was deliberately lit, and police are now hunting for the culprits. And fires also destroyed a number of high-performance vehicles at Lonsdale. They were being stored inside a warehouse that erupted in flames on O'Sullivan Road. The damage bill was estimated at $200,000. 7 News can reveal a prisoner who shot himself in the head with a nail gun at Port Augusta had been refused bail just hours earlier. The 26-year-old was taken to hospital with serious injuries after shooting himself several times with the power tool. The incident happened in the prison workshop yesterday afternoon. The man had faced court on serious offences earlier in the day and his bail application had been rejected. The Corrections Department is now investigating. Better than expected inflation data has prompted high-level calls for the Reserve Bank to start cutting interest rates. Political reporter Rob Scott has the details from Canberra.
Queensland Premier Stephen Miles says after yesterday's surprise figures showing inflation has dropped to its lowest level in 2 years, it's time for the RBA to start cutting rates. It's an unusual call. Politicians tend to be careful not to be seen to be putting pressure on the central bank. But he's thrown that convention out the window today, even urging the banks not to wait for the RBA and to start slashing their rates as soon as possible.
Now that inflation has turned a corner, they should act just as quickly to cut rates as they did to increase rates. There is no rule that says the banks can't cut rates in advance of the RBA. They put the rates up before the RBA did, so they can cut them before the RBA does.
Even the Prime Minister was more direct with his language today. While still sticking to the line that the RBA is independent, he made his feelings pretty clear.
I, of course, would like to see cuts to interest rates. I'd like to see any measure that takes pressure off low and middle income earners.
With monthly inflation dropping to 3.4% in December, market expectations are now overwhelmingly that the RBA will leave rates on hold when the board meets next week. And economists are growing increasingly confident we'll see the first of 3 possible cuts from about June onwards. Although the RBA may decide to hold off until the revamped Stage 3 tax cuts kick in July.
To some breaking news now, when the nation's football body has suffered a data breach after it reportedly leaked keys to a database containing personal information. Passports, contracts and other personal information of Australian soccer players could be accessed, as well as the details of ticket buyers. Researchers at Cyber News say the leak was likely due to human error and was not a cyber attack. Football Australia says it's now investigating. Almost 200 South Australians have been issued with permits to end their lives since euthanasia became legal a year ago. Of those, more than half have died using the voluntary assisted dying program. Jasmine Wong's 73-year-old mother Lynn, who endured a lengthy battle with breast cancer, was among them.
As Mum's disease progressed, she decided to come off treatment and set a date for her to take the substance that had been prescribed by the pharmacy team.
1 in 4 people who've applied for the scheme has been under the age of 65. Year 12s are being targeted in the latest police recruitment drive. A pilot program's kicked off at Theberton Senior College with a dozen students taking part. It's hoped the course will be rolled out at more schools next year.
When we're in this competitive recruiting environment, we need to think out of the box and do things like pathways to policing.
The government wants to recruit an extra 900 officers over the next 3 years. Vision has emerged of the 45 Taipan military helicopters retired and about to be junked by the Australian Defence Force. Ukraine says it desperately needs the $900 million force in any condition, but our government says it's too late. Chris Reason has this story.
Good afternoon. Well, these are images that will leave Ukraine supporters and defence insiders in absolute despair. The Australian Taipan fleet discovered in Townsville, decommissioned and in mothballs. It's been a controversial decision that has haunted the federal government. Now 7 News has located the under wraps Taipans at a RAF base in Townsville. They are stripped in pieces and destined for spare parts sale and eventual burial in the ground. The decision to decommission them came early last September, the government citing safety concerns, despite many countries swearing by them and despite the Ukraine government making a formal request for them. Ukraine uses helicopters that are sometimes decades old, Soviet era. They say they're prepared to transport them and repair them, but the government says the request came too late and they want the spare parts sale to benefit Australian taxpayers. The helos are worth a conservative $20 million each. Ukraine lobbyists says they're desperate for them.
We're on the cusp of the 2nd anniversary of the full invasion of Ukraine by Russia. So we're calling on government on the 2nd anniversary to make sure that there's a significant military package, support package for Ukraine.
Defence insiders and analysts have also called the decision scandalous, saying the MRH-90 Taipan still had enormous benefit for the Ukraine battlefield, particularly in getting injured soldiers to medical care. Campaigners now suggesting the federal government appoint a Ukraine commissioner or coordinator to make sure this doesn't happen again. The Ukraine community spokesman saying that if the federal government was prepared to change its position on stage 3 tax cuts, it should also be prepared to consider changing its positions on the Taipan fleet. Back to you.
Chris Reason reporting there. Residents in Brisbane's north are hoping the Queensland government will buy back homes that have been hit by 2 floods in as many years. As Joel Dry reports, weary locals are getting on with the clean-up.
Well, it is all hands to the wheel here at the hardest hit flooded suburb of Bray Park to Brisbane's north. A lot of heavy machinery is now on site to try to begin to get rid of all of the possessions that have been completely flooded and left out the front of people's homes. It is a difficult and emotional clean-up, particularly difficult for one resident that we spoke to. She gave birth just a week ago. She had only been home one night when she had to endure not just her newborn, but also a flood.
I was feeding him early in the morning and heard the rain, dog swimming in the backyard, but still didn't register.
There is more and more chatter around here about the hope that government will potentially buy back some of these properties that have suffered 2 floods in as many years. We put the question to the Premier and this was his response.
My government believes that every Queenslander deserves a roof over their head that is safe, secure and affordable.
A lot of these residents know even if they did have their properties bought back at a fair price, with the way the real estate market is, it would be difficult to find a place, let alone somewhere that they feel comfortable in. What they want now is to get rid of this mess, hopefully build back better, and even more hopefully not suffer another flood for many years.
Residents in Parafield Gardens have been greeted with a smelly mess after a rubbish truck fire. We'll have more on that after the break. Also, social media bosses told they have blood on their hands, accused of exploiting children. The new bombshell evidence decades after the infamous BBC Princess Diana interview. Plus, actor Alec Baldwin enters a new plea on new involuntary manslaughter charges. And later, the mission to rescue a little boy who wanted a toy a little too much. A quick-thinking garbage truck driver has saved his employer a costly repair bill. He managed to dump his burning load before flames spread to the truck at Parafield Gardens this morning. He noticed smoke pouring from the back of the vehicle on the Salisbury Highway just after 11 and quickly emptied the waste outside a shopping centre. An MFS crew was called in to extinguish the blaze. No one was injured. Social media bosses have been told they have blood on their hands, accused of not doing more to protect children bullied to death. US correspondent Tim Lester was there as the CEOs of Facebook and Instagram faced a Senate grilling.
The CEOs of the world's most popular social media sites dragged in front of a US Senate hearing today to answer questions about their platforms and the exploitation of children. They faced some angry senators.
You have blood on your hands. You have a product. You have a product that's killing people.
But more confronting for the tech bosses, parents, many holding pictures of their dead children. Some had been bullied relentlessly through social media. Others had accessed drugs through the platforms. One senator began pushing the boss of Instagram owner Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, to say sorry.
There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now? Well, they're here. You're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims? Would you like
Zuckerberg turned to the families, telling them it's terrible. No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered.
I don't feel like he has emotion.
Too little, too late. The social media executives say they are stepping up measures to protect users, working with law enforcement and using artificial intelligence to catch harmful content. The hearing and its tense exchanges lasted almost 4 hours, but finished with few firm outcomes. There have been hearings like it before, and yet America's Congress is yet to pass significant laws in the area.
Ukraine has exchanged hundreds of prisoners of war with Russia in the first swap since the Russian military plane crash. There were hugs and tears as more than 200 Ukrainian soldiers returned to home soil in one of the biggest exchanges so far. A previous Russian plane carrying 65 Ukrainian soldiers was shot down by Kyiv's forces, killing everyone on board. There had been little warning of its approach. Judges at the top UN court have declined to rule on allegations Russia funded fighters involved in the downing of MH17 in 2014, killing all on board. The International Court of Justice did rule, though, that Russia violated elements of terrorism and anti-discrimination treaties. In 2022, a Dutch court ruled that a Russian-controlled group had downed the plane. And Hollywood actor Alec Baldwin has pleaded not guilty over the deadly shooting of cinematographer on the set of his movie Rust. Charges were originally dropped until a grand jury in New Mexico decided he would be charged with involuntary manslaughter. Baldwin was holding the prop gun when the live round was fired, killing Helena Hutchins and wounding a director. The 65-year-old star has always claimed he didn't pull the trigger and was not required to post bail. Disgraced British journalist Martin Bashir has claimed jealousy and racism for the scandal surrounding his infamous interview with Princess Diana. Thousands of secret documents have just been released, thrusting the interview back into the spotlight almost 30 years on. Here's Europe Bureau Chief Hugh Whitfield.
More than 3,000 emails have been released under Freedom of Information relating to the BBC interview that Princess Diana gave in 1995, where she said, famously, there were 3 in her marriage to Charles. Back in 2020, a documentary showed evidence Diana had been tricked or deceived into giving the interview via fake bank statements made at the BBC. At the time, the journalist Martin Bashir was defending himself in emails to the BBC. He blamed professional jealousy for the furor. At the time, he said it was also apparent that there was some irritation that a second-generation immigrant of non-white working-class roots should have the temerity to enter a royal palace and conduct an interview, saying it wouldn't happen to an established white journalist. The BBC denies any cover-up or accusations of acting in bad faith. It is yet another ugly chapter in a story that has stretched on now for nearly 30 years after an interview that was at the time the scoop of the century.
Time for a look ahead at sport now with Hazy. What have you got for us, Hazy?
It was a big night in Melbourne last night, and man of the moment Mitch Marsh reflects on winning Aussie cricket's biggest award. And another come-from-behind win elevates Angie's Tottenham back into the top 4. All that and plenty more a little bit later on.
Check in again soon. Thank you, Hazy. A disabled man has been rescued from his burning eastern suburbs unit. After the break, what sparked the blaze? Also ahead, why a man who attacked a North Melbourne football star has walked free from court. Dramatic video of a citizen's arrest after a man stabs his mother. Plus, what's behind a surge in alcohol prices from today? And later this hour, the record-breaking Powerball jackpot up for grabs tonight. A disabled man has been rescued from a fire in the bedroom of a Maylands unit. Neighbours saw smoke coming from the ground floor just after 2 this morning and called 000. He was treated by paramedics for smoke inhalation. It's believed the fire was started by a flame that had been left unattended. A thug has avoided jail time despite a brutal attack on North Melbourne champion Jack Ziebell. He escaped with just a fine after punching the former Roos captain to the ground and kicking him as he lay defenceless. Rochelle Brown was in court.
The brutal bashing left the North Melbourne champion hospitalised. Today, Jack Ziebell revealed the emotional toll the incident took in a private statement to a magistrate. The former Roos captain was celebrating his final match with teammates and had stepped outside the Osborne Rooftop and bar to check on a friend when he was attacked. On the phone with no warning, he was pushed into a wall, punched with such force that he was knocked to the ground and then kicked while he was down. The man responsible, Ibrahim Balouli, left him lying on the ground as he walked away.
Balouli, you left Jack Ziebell lying on the ground. You kicked him. What do you have to say about it?
Balouli kept his hood up and head down as he left Melbourne Magistrates Court with a $25,000 fine and a stern warning. Balouli was involved in a second altercation minutes before he attacked Mr Ziebell with Kangaroos forward Charlie Comben, who was pushed to the floor and struck 6 times to the back of the neck. The prosecution pushed for jail time, but the 21-year-old's lawyer argued he was on the phone to police within 24 hours to own up to the attack. His co-offender was fined $1,800 for his role in the fight. A third man had his charges dismissed.
St Vincent's Hospital is investigating a privacy breach after a sensitive photo of a Sydney shark attack victim was leaked. The photo shows the bitten leg of Lauren O'Neill, who was swimming in Sydney Harbour when she was mauled by a bull shark. It appears to have been taken from inside the emergency department soon after she arrived. The 29-year-old is expected to make a full recovery after undergoing surgery. An argument is believed to have sparked a violent attack on a woman by her own son in Sydney. Bystanders took matters into their own hands after the 21-year-old allegedly attacked his mum with a paint scraper. Bill Hogan reports.
Well, Jordan Fay has this afternoon faced court charged with wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. after an alleged violent attack on his mother in Randwick late yesterday. The 21-year-old was chased down by members of the public when he was seen running from her apartment covered in blood and tackled to the ground. It's understood Jordan and his mother Alexandra were in an argument that turned violent when he allegedly stabbed her with a paint scraper. The 47-year-old was left bleeding out. Neighbours did what they could to help her, while her son was held down on Frenchman's Road by Bill the mechanic.
They just said he just stabbed the lady, you know. I was like, nah, hold him down, and we waited for the police to come.
There was blood all over him, and like, he was in another world, and the way he was looking, it was like something's wrong here.
Paramedics treated Alexandra before taking her to St Vincent's Hospital in a serious but stable condition. Jordan was taken to Maroubra Police Station and charged, and bail refused. His mother has also today taken out an apprehended violence order to protect her from her own son.
The tax on alcohol is going up again, leading to fears a $15 pint of beer could soon become the norm. It means a litre of alcohol officially costs $101.85. In the most recent cost of living figures, alcohol went up by 2.8%, the highest jump in any category. Distillers say the tax is rising so quickly it's crippling hundreds of Australian businesses. Well, time for a quick check of the weather now with Casey, who joins us from Coromandel Valley. Case, the sun's out ahead of a special cricket match tonight.
We are also protected from the sea breeze up here, where it is a perfect summer's afternoon at the Ramblers Cricket Club, where the Ashley Bryant Memorial T20 match is about to get underway. And I am joined by Nick Work from the club. Nick, tell us what this special match is all about tonight.
Thanks, Casey. Oh, look, it's all about the legacy that Ashley Bryant left for us, memorial game, about raising funds for our junior cricket program and just in memory of him and the mental health side of things that we need to be aware of every day of the week. So thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. Look forward to the game getting underway. Thank you, Nick. And we do have more of this warm sunshine on the way. I'll be back with a look at tomorrow's forecast shortly. Elle?
Thank you, Casey. We'll check in again soon. After the break, the race to get a ticket to tonight's record $200 million Powerball jackpot. Those details ahead. And a precarious rescue the moment police saved a young boy stuck in a claw machine.
In 7 News, over 2 million used cars sold last year, 40,000 a week, and now, finally, the prices are dropping.
There is no better time to buy a used car.
The most popular used cars, the biggest discounts, and why the buyer now has more bargaining power. On 7 News at 6.
Well, now let's check in with Rosanna on what's coming up at 6.
Thank you very much, Elle. Coming up tonight, tragedy on the Fleurieu, an elderly man's body pulled from the water at Goulburn North. An accused carjacker's marathon rooftop siege caught on camera, police cornering him at Paralawi. We hear from the rideshare driver who was robbed at knife point. New concussion rules for kids, but will they make a difference? We speak to the medical experts, what parents need to know. Plus, exclusive, we go behind the scenes with the Adelaide jeweller tasked with designing and making a precious memento for our champion cricketers. Hope you can join us in the news at 6.
Great, thank you, Rosanna. Well, let's get a check of your finance now. And the gains have come to an end. Here's ComSec's Laura Bezerati.
Good afternoon. They certainly have. It was the first day of a brand new month and the Aussie market retreated by 1.2%, meaning we just snapped an 8-day winning streak. But it was just yesterday that the Aussie market hit its highest level ever, beating the previous record it hit roughly 2.5 years ago. And generally, when markets hit these kinds of levels, it does struggle to hold on to those gains and keep the momentum going. So it is quite normal to see some pullback, which is exactly what happened today. The declines were fairly broad across the market, with all of the 11 sectors ending in the red, half of which were down by over 1%. The two biggest sectors, mining and banks, added the most weight. Together, they account for about half of the Aussie market. But the declines were really everywhere. In fact, only 22 of the 200 biggest companies on the Aussie share market managed to improve. So that just goes to show how broad the declines have been today. And part of the reason for the falls was the US central bank watering down hopes for a rate cut in March. So market movements still widely being influenced by interest rate expectations. And finally, the Aussie dollar currently buys 65.4 US cents.
Thank you, Laura. Well, if you haven't bought a ticket to tonight's record $200 million Powerball, you'll want to get your skates on. South Australians have been lining up cash in hand to buy not just one but multiple entries. Without wanting to count their chickens too early, many hopefuls are already quietly dreaming of what they'll do with all that cash.
If you won $200 million, what would you do with it?
Oh my God, what wouldn't you do with it? Oh, I'd sit down for a couple of days and think about it, and then I'd go wild. Really, really.
Look, up to half of Australian adults are going to have a ticket into tonight's draw, and it's been a buzz.
You have until 8 p.m. to buy that ticket. An adventurous 3-year-old boy has sparked a dramatic rescue after spending an hour trapped inside a claw machine in Brisbane. Katrina Blowers has this story.
Good afternoon. Well, this is not the same claw machine that Ethan got stuck in. The company had to replace the original with another one after police smashed the glass to get 3-year-old Ethan out. On Saturday night, the adventurous toddler found the toys inside just too irresistible, making his way through the flap and getting stuck inside the machine, where he stayed playing with toys for a whole hour. His parents say they kept themselves calm so not to frighten him. Ethan, on the other hand, found the whole experience wonderful, even though it was some time before he could be rescued. With the help of his dad, police got Ethan to lie in a corner while they smashed their way in and eventually pulled him to safety.
Glass. Perfect. Go to that back corner. Now, Ethan, cover your eyes. Hide.
And tonight on 7 News at 6, we'll bring you a very special interview with Ethan and his mum and dad. Did he get to keep any of the toys? Well, you'll have to watch to find out.
Surely he got a memento after that ordeal. He didn't look fussed though, did he?
No, he was comfortable, maybe too.
Loving it.
Imagine if you were playing and you scored Ethan.
Exactly. Hope no kids watching get any ideas, hey?
Exactly right.
Hazy, tell me, Mitch Marsh, he's won a lot of new fans after that speech last night.
His speech was absolutely beautiful. So one moment you're laughing, next minute you're crying. So we're going to relive some of the best moments. Also coming up, the king of the BBL, strikers skipper Matt Short wins back-to-back Player of the Tournament awards. And is it time to lock in 36ers interim coach Scott Ninnis? Sixers owner Grant Kelly gives us the latest. Hello again. All-rounder Mitch Marsh has cemented himself as Australia cricket's cult hero. Marsh says he's still pinching himself after claiming the Allen Border Medal and delivering an emotional speech that gave hope to cricket tragics everywhere.
Well, it's been an incredible 12 months for Aussie all-rounder Mitch Marsh. Once the self-proclaimed most despised man in Australian cricket, last night's award cemented his place as the toast of the Aussie men's game. While he was still jovial this morning, the all-rounder stole the show last night, making fun of his love of a beer while making an emotional tribute to Aussie captain Pat Cummins and coach Andrew McDonald.
I'd like to pay particular thank yous to Ronnie and Paddy. I'm a bit fat at times and I love a beer, but but you see the best in me always.
And my little throwaway line there is hopefully quite relatable to a lot of Australians.
It was a special night too for Ash Gardner, cementing her place at the pinnacle of women's cricket, adding a second Belinda Clark medal to her collection after first taking out the award back in 2022.
Being able to win this award twice now is certainly just as special as the first.
Nathan Lyon was the Shane Warne Test Player of the Year, while Marsh capped off his night with the one-day crown as well. Australia, they're gearing up for a one-day series against the West Indies that starts at the MCG tomorrow.
Strikers skipper Matt Shaw will slot into Australia's middle order for that game tomorrow. Last night he secured back-to-back BBL Player of the Tournament awards.
I'm feeling really confident with the bat and the ball in that matter. So yeah, hopefully I can sort of transition that into the international stage.
It's been a big 24 hours for Short, with he and his partner, Olympic swimmer Maddie Wilson, announcing they're expecting their first child.
I think it's just a bit of a relief for not only me but Maddie as well, with her swimming and everything. It's sort of, she doesn't have to sort of tell anyone now, tell any more lies. So it's it's all out there for everyone to know, and she's doing really well.
Now the baby is due in September. Former Australia captain Meg Lanning says women's cricket needs to add more test matches to the calendar or scrap the format for good.
You know, in my career, we were playing once every 2 years. It takes us 2 days to work out how to play the thing, and then the test is over. It's either more or you sort of don't go there at all, because I think once every so often is pretty difficult as a player to play, and it's probably not going to be the best product.
And the recently retired Lanning will be honoured at Adelaide Oval on Saturday as the Aussies take on South Africa in a one-day clash. Adelaide 36ers owner Grant Kelly insists the club won't name a new coach until the end of the season, but declared the club couldn't be happier with interim coach Scott Ninnis. The former Sixers star has brought the club back to playoff contention ahead of the Kings at home tomorrow night.
Turnaround that Scott has engineered has been nothing short of extraordinary. But obviously we're highly mindful of Scott's extraordinary performance, both on and off the court, and the individual qualities he brings to the role.
Kelly was on hand to help launch the Shooting Hoops Foundation, which has been developed to help empower the next generation on and off the court. Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham are back into the Premier League top four after an electrifying comeback win over Brentford. Down 1-0, Spurs banged in 3 goals in 8 minutes early in the second half to take control of the contest, going on to win 3-2.
Richarlison, and it's 3 in a breathtaking 7-minute spell.
Second half, I think 25 minutes, 30 minutes were outstanding. We scored 3 great goals and probably should have had a couple more.
Liverpool extended its winning streak to 4 matches, crushing Chelsea at Anfield 4-1 to move 5 points clear on top of the table. Reigning champs Manchester City moved into second with a 3-1 win over Burnley and have a game in hand. Australia's top surfers are off to a strong start at the season opening Pipe Pro in Hawaii. With the famed Banzai pipeline pumping, Callum Robson won his opening heat, moving through to the round of 32, along with Brazilian superstar Gabriel Medina.
Down, grabs the rail, slides out for a moment, and he gets spat out of a cannon.
Defending champion Jack Robinson also won his heat, advancing along with 51-year-old legend Kelly Slater. As he always does, Hawaiian superstar John Florence made it look easy on his home break. That's our look at sport this afternoon. Elle, just a big congratulations to Matty Wilson and Matt Short. No pressure on the kid, but when Dad's an Aussie cricketer and Mum's an Olympic gold medalist, let's just say the genes are there.
There's some high hopes, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
They're going to be, surely they have a sporting child.
You'd think so.
We'll see. Watch this space. Thanks, Hazy. It's been a perfect sunny summer's day across the city and the suburbs. Casey will be back with a look at the latest forecast after the break.
Feeding a family of 4 for just $12 a day. See how this Aussie mum is doing it with healthy, delicious meals that kids love. Plus, Taylor Swift Mania hits Australia. Your first look inside the ultimate fan experience. Start with Sunrise tomorrow morning on 7 and 7+.
Good afternoon, Dorian Tassado from the Beaumont Tiles Traffic Centre. Got ourselves some residual delays in Mitchell Park on Marion Road near the Sturt River following a crash there. Got some works continuing this afternoon in Seaton on Tapleys Hill Road. Speeds are at 40 both ways. And just be sure to check your speed Gorge Road, Athelston. Tiles up to 60% off. Vanities, basins and toilets up to 50% off only at Beaumont's Clearance Centre final demo sale at Richmond while stocks last. That's the latest Adelaide traffic. Now back to you, Elle.
Thank you, Dorian. Well, time for the weather now with Casey, who joins us from a sunny Coromandel Valley. Case, more sunshine's on the way.
It certainly is, Elle, and up here in the hills we are quite sheltered from the gusty afternoon sea breeze, so it's perfect summer conditions for the kids' cricket clinic here that is about to wrap up. But the big event tonight, about to kick off, is the Ashley Bryant Memorial T20 match. Now, Ashley was instrumental in bringing the junior program here at the Ramblers Cricket Club to life, and in his honour each year they raise funds to ensure the under 10 kids can play for the club for free. Also in his memory, it's a chance for the club to raise mental health awareness too. Now, as for this sunshine, well, there's been plenty down in the city too, but the southwesterly sea breeze has kept a cap again on temperatures today, reaching a top of 26 degrees. The low was 13, and right now it is still around 25 in the city. Elsewhere around the country, and skies have remained dry across the capitals. Perth currently a very hot and sunny 41 degrees, 23 in Melbourne and 29 in Brisbane. Meanwhile, the tropical low between northern Queensland
Queensland and the NT border is continuing to deliver intense rainfall and damaging winds, and there is a chance that low could clip the northeastern border of SA in a few days' time. Meanwhile, most of the state is still in a stable south to southeasterly airstream. Now, around the state tomorrow, plenty of hot sunshine across the board. Up north, a top of 38 for Cooper Pedy and Roxby Downs, a sunny 34 for Port Augusta and 34 also for Renmark, 29 for Ceduna and Whyalla, 33 for Port Pirie, 31 for Clare and Kadina, cloud clearing and 30 for Nuriutpa. Partly cloudy and 26 for Murray Bridge and Kingscote, 23 for Port Lincoln and Edithburgh, 22 for Victor Harbour, 27 for Naracoorte and 24 for Mount Gambier. For the city, down to 14, then warming up to around 29 degrees with cloud clearing, 27 for Noongar, 25 for Mount Barker, and the mercury is due to hit 30 plus degrees by the weekend. Elle?
That's what we like to hear. Thank you, Casey. And that's all from 7 Adelaide's afternoon news team. Thanks for your company. Will and Rosanna will have our next bulletin at 6, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7 Plus and with 7news.com.au. You'll know the news.